My name is Chase Balkcom, and I'm a member of the Nassau-Suffolk Kappa League. Today, I will be interviewing Mr. Connis Koiner for the Why Kappa's Mentor campaign. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, good evening, Chase. This is good to finally speak to you. My name is Connis Edward Koiner. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I pledged in the spring of 1998 at Iota Omicron chapter, which is at Hofstra University. I'm currently a dues-paying member of the Queens Alumni chapter. I'm a member of the board of directors. I'm the former treasurer for that chapter as well. I've held many positions within the organization. Polmark, which is president, Vice Polmark, which is vice president. I was student of the year in the 1999 student of the year competition for the northeastern province of the province where our chapter was located. I am currently, my son is also a member of the Kappa League in Nassau-Suffolk. Uh, and I reside in Valley Stream with my lovely wife, Amber, and my two sons, Connis Edwin Koiner and Jackson Isaiah Koiner.
That's nice. That's really nice.
Thank you.
So, why did you decide to become a Kappa?
Wow. So many reasons. The number one reason is Kappa Alpha Psi was, when I did my research, they were talking about honorable achievement in every field of human endeavor. When I sought out Kappa Alpha Psi, I was a freshman at Hofstra University. At my school, they had two organizations for Black men, two fraternal organizations for Black men. One was Malik Sigma Psi, the other one was Alpha Phi Alpha. I did some research and spoke to some brothers from each of those organizations, particularly from the Maliks. And while they were upstanding men of honor, I needed something a little bit more that I wanted to align myself with. So I hit the books and I went to the computer lab and started doing some research. I realized that there was a chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity right here at Hofstra University. So I was like, okay, this is good, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
The one tenet that I saw that was consistent amongst every single chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi and at a national level was achievement, honorable achievement in every field of human endeavor. At that point, as a freshman, I had been inducted rather into an honor society after my first semester of being at school. My GPA at the time was a 3.5, right? So I was getting involved in becoming a peer counselor, which was, after my freshman year, my next that summer, I was going to be involved in bringing freshmen into the university and trying to show them the ropes. So for me, it was very important to be an achiever at school and to align myself with other achievers. And so for me, that was a number one thing. Also, I'm an only child. I don't have any brothers, right? So for me, the number one question that you hear, the number one answer, I should say, to the question that you hear when people ask, why did you want to be a Kappa? Is like, oh, I was looking for brotherhood. I was looking for brotherhood. I didn't know about that brotherhood. I didn't have any brothers, right? And for me, it was a a new concept to kind of be aligned with actual brothers. But realistically, for me, the number one thing was A, being able to serve my community, B, bringing something new to Hofstra University, or bringing it back, I should say, to Hofstra University, because that chapter was already there, but it wasn't in place. It wasn't active. And C, and probably most importantly, was aligning myself with like-minded individuals who had gone towards a task of achievement in every field of human endeavor. For me, that was very important to make sure that I was aligned with those type of people.
So, so for what did you decide to do for a career while in college?
Wow. So in college, my major was video and TV production with a minor in psychology. I was very involved in the media arts, very interested in the media arts when I started at Hofstra. I do not regret going for that major because it kind of it causes you to look at things a little differently than the rest of the world, right? You don't look at things in just a linear way. You look at things holistically, right? And so the reason I say that is one of the things I wanted to do when I came out of school was to be a video editor. And to be a video editor, you had to kind of see what the end product was that you were supposed to get to, and then use all of the different tools, the audio, the video, the lighting, the costuming, and everything else to get to that end goal and put everything in order. So we had what was called a linear editor, which was basically you would be you do picture A and then picture B and then picture C, and you do it in order. When I graduated and as I got to the end of my term at Hofstra University, I started to learn about a new editing system called the Avid system. The Avid system was a non-linear editor, which means you can put things over here and then do something else in the back end or the front end. You can do it all at the same time. You can merge things together. You can pull them apart. It was a whole lot more of a holistic view. And while I did not end up becoming a TV editor, I did, by the way, work for VH1 for a very short period, and for the editing studio that was owned by VH1. I found myself falling into finance, and what that did is has me looking at finance a whole lot different than other people who may have been in a finance background continually throughout their scholastic career. When I got out of college and when I graduated, I worked for VH1 for a short time as a production assistant. I found out that there was a VH1 studio which was on 34th Street in Manhattan, and I would go to the studio every once in a while and help with productions there, and view other productions that were there. And I realized that, hey, this is something that I wanted to get into. So I started working for VH1's studio. The company that was aligned to VH1 studio was called MTI, Modern Telecommunications Incorporated. So then what they did the editing, they did the video dubbing, and I got into that. I really did like what I was doing. But at some point, one of my friends that came to me and said, hey, I have a friend of mine that works at a place called Argent Mortgage Company. And, they're dealing with mortgages. I didn't know what a mortgage was. My parents hadn't owned a property, so I had no idea what that was. I went into it thinking, hey, you know what? I want to learn a little bit about finance. I got in there and I learned everything from the ground up. I was promoted in 4 months from customer service to underwriter. Once I became an underwriter, I was promoted to a team where I was leading other underwriters and teaching them how to do it. I got promoted shortly thereafter to an account management role. And then when that place shut down, I transferred over to Chase Home Finance as a account manager there. And so at this point, I started to look at, wow, I'm really starting to get interested in finance and how it works, how these numbers work together, how we can make a decision on somebody's credit and their capacity to pay back their loans, how we make decisions on who gets a loan, who doesn't, how we can twist, and change the concepts of borrowing and lending in order to fit somebody's pocketbook so that they'll be able to pay those loans back in a proper manner. At some point, when Chase Home Finance started to go under, I transferred out of there and into the branches, into the local branch. So in Mount Vernon, New York, I was living in the Bronx at the time. Mount Vernon was maybe a 5 or 10 minute drive from me. I started learning finance in the banking industry. So that's how I became a part of Chase Bank. During that time period, I had interviewed for a private banking client service role. And it was around the time that Bear Stearns fell apart. If you don't know what Bear Stearns is, it was another private banking corporation that kind of went
Wow.
under a few years right after I had joined Chase. And so I had 7 interviews, and they told me, all right, hiring is frozen. So I went back to the branch. Oh man, I really wanted that role because I couldn't stand working in the branch. I'll be very candid. I hated it. After about a year being in the branch, I got a call back from that private banking group, and they said, hey, Connis, that role is still open. I came back. I had 7 more interviews. Some of them were the same people, some were different people. I got that role. And the day that I walked in, my manager comes to me and drops a book on my desk and says, you need to start studying for your Series 7 exam. Now, I already had a Series 6 and 63 licensure and a life and health insurance licensure from when I was in the branch, but I need to upgrade that license because now I'm dealing with different finance vehicles, right? At the same time, I was doing my MBA part-time. So imagine my first year in my master's degree with Baruch College, working full-time and studying for this exam, and newly married. No kids yet, but newly married. So it's doing a whole lot of stuff, right? But again, achievement in every field of human endeavor, right? So we're going to achieve in marriage, we're going to achieve in work, we're going to achieve in school. That's what we're going to do. And so that's what I did. I passed that exam. I did very well with my master's. Um, After being at Chase for JP Morgan at that time for a while, uh, I decided it was time to move on, and I moved on to HSBC, where I am right now. I started off in the private banking division as a junior banker. I did that for
Mhm.
about 6 or so years, and then another role came up for a business management lead for trust and fiduciary services at HSBC, and I took on to that role as it came to me, and that is the current role that I am in right now. And I've been at HSBC for a decade as of December 1st.
Wow, that's great. So for people who like want to pursue the profession of finance, what advice would you give to them since it seems like you have a lot on your plate with
Mhm.
how you've come to this position now?
So there are one piece of advice that was given to me, which I would give to other people who are interested in finances. Don't think that just because you don't have a finance degree as an undergrad that you can't get involved, right? I When I was looking for schools to go to for my MBA, I was looking at Baruch College and I was looking at NYU. NYU and Baruch, I found this out later. They were learning exactly the same things, in some cases by the exact same professors. I had a professor, um, I had an economics professor who was teaching economics at Baruch on, let's say, Tuesday and Thursday, and he was teaching Monday and Wednesday at NYU. Same books, same material, same tests, same everything. He was working at CUNY because he was getting better pay. He was working at NYU because he was getting medical benefits. And so he's teaching all the same stuff to the same people. They're paying a whole bunch more at their school than I am at mine. And of course, they're paying for the name, right? Um, when I was looking, however, for a school to go to for my MBA, I sat with one of the counselors at NYU, and the first thing I said to her was, my major in school was video and TV production. I had a minor in psychology. I don't have any finance knowledge from undergrad. The only finance knowledge I have is real world on the job, right? At the time, I'm working at JP Morgan. Prior to that, I was at Chase Home Finance. Prior to that, I was at Argent Mortgage Company. So I have a set of financial skills that are mostly related to real estate and real estate, the funding of the real estate process. But as far as the whole idea of finance, am I not going to be eligible because I don't have an undergraduate degree in finance? And she said to me, the reason why you should still pursue your finance degree, if that's the way that you want to go, and you have the background, should not be hindered by the fact that you did not have an undergraduate degree. Because folks who have an undergraduate degree in finance and continue on in their career, they think a certain way. And it's not that it's a wrong way to think, but they're trained to look at things a certain way.
Mhm.
Holistically, they like to bring folks in that have other experiences from other fields because they look at things in a different way. They can analyze things from a different way than somebody who's only been trained in finance. So that's my number one piece of advice. If you do not have a finance degree as an undergrad, it doesn't mean you can't get involved in finance. The second piece of advice is finance is very, very broad, right? So what I do right now in my role is really, really strongly linked to governance, risk, and oversight. I'm a business risk manager essentially, and so what my role entails is really making sure that the bank is doing what they should be doing from a risk perspective, because there's a certain amount of measurable risk that a bank will take, and then there's another level that they won't take, right? It's been my job to make sure that we are within the risk framework, that
Mhm.
we are, there's an acceptable amount of risk and that we don't exceed that, right? And if we do, that we have controls in place to prevent us from getting into any sort of trouble. Literally, we get audited. My area gets audited by the Office of the Control of Currency every year, annually. And I am the one that's at the forefront of that audit, presenting documents, presenting processes and procedures. I'm the one that updates those policies and procedures. I'm the one that works with the particular line of business that I work with to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, that we're changing policies or changing the way that we do things to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Mhm.
Because in the end, if we get sanctioned and we lose our bank, we can lose our banking license if we're not doing something the right way. So it doesn't
Mhm.
just affect my area; it affects all of the parts of the private bank. That if one of us is not doing what we're supposed to, and it's way above our risk tolerance level, we
Mhm.
can lose the ability to be a bank. So that's why it's very, very important. So yes, so those are my two pieces of advisement to anybody who's looking to get into finance. Right, this is, I'd be very honest, not to say that there wasn't a governance and risk portion of my master's degree. There was a
Mhm.
portion of that. The most of what I did with my degree is not related directly to what I'm doing right now. Uh, from the numbers perspective, from the qualitative perspective. Um, but there's a lot that I was able to glean from my MBA to actually use in my current role right now, and will be able to use in the future. And I didn't have an undergraduate degree in finance.
So, as we're on like the topic of advice, I'd like to switch it to something else, like similar, like mentoring.
Sure.
So, I would like to know, why do you feel or think mentoring is important?
Very good question. One of the things that I enjoy doing at my job is being a employee resource group leader. So there's an employee resource group at my job called REACH, which stands for Resource for Employees of African and Caribbean Heritage, right?
Mhm.
And we do a lot of mentoring there. I'm the leader of the professional development arm of REACH. So I'm in charge, me and one other person, we're in charge of providing content to people of color, basically to anybody, but we do tailor it to people of color that's going to help them advance their development professionally, making it easier for them to transition within roles, enter in within their line of business, outside of their line of business, and hey, even outside of the bank if it comes to that point, right? Interview
Mhm.
skills, how to do your estate planning, while you're at work, how to uh, make sure that you have your Zoom presence proper, that your social media presence is acceptable and useful for you, right? Making sure your LinkedIn is useful, making sure your headshots are going well, public speaking, etc. There's so many different facets of it, right? And one of the big things that we do as an ERG is also go to other colleges and university, particularly in New York City, and being a voice or the face of HSBC, right? And what's really good about that is you get to see people from all walks of life who are at schools that you've gone to or that folks have gone to get to the point where they are right now, and then mentoring them to let them know, hey, it's okay, you can be a part of a private bank, you could be a part of a commercial bank. There are people that look like us here. So for me, then there's two things that are really, really important from a mentoring perspective. Number one is representation, right? So what I do, the work I do for an ERG and the work I do for Kappa League is to provide representation. I need the young men to be able to see that there are older men, right, or men who are either way advanced in their career or are advancing their career or even newly graduated, that look like them, that speak like them, that come from the same places they do, and they can still put on their shirt and tie and get the job done each and every day. They can be very useful in their communities. They can be useful within their organization, and it gives something for them to look up to. So number one, representation is definitely key. Number two is upskilling. So being able to teach these young men the skills that they need to succeed. It's simple things: how to tie a tie, how you should wear your suit, how you should conduct an interview, how you should speak depending on the people that are in the room with you, right? One of the things that's really, really big and important to the Black community is code switching, right? And a lot of folks don't really understand that, but we understand that, right? When you're around your peeps, you speak a different way than when you're in a corporate boardroom. You speak a different way than when you're on an interview. You speak a different way than when you're with your parents or with your family. And being able to navigate that and know when you should speak a certain way, what words you should be using, how you should conduct yourself, making sure that everyone knows that you're always being watched. As a Black man in America, you're always being watched. You're being watched by your peers. You're being watched by those who are coming after you. You're being watched by your family members. You're being watched by people who don't have the same color skin as you. You're being watched by folks on your job. Wherever you go, you have to be upstanding in one way or another, because you never know who's watching and who might report on what they see, right? One of the things that we mentioned to Kappa Leaguers is there's a brand that you need to protect, right? So now that you're a member of Kappa League, if you're out and about, and there's a lot of eyes on us right now. So if you're out and about and you're doing something crazy, we're going to hear about it, right? Someone's going to say, oh, that guy's Kappa League. He's Nassau-Suffolk Kappa League. I know CK. I'm going to go talk to him and say, hey, here's what I saw your guy doing the other day. I don't think that was right. He should be doing something different. And so there's a brand that needs to be protected. I tell my sons that all the while. You know, obviously my son is also in Kappa League, but my younger son is not. I try to tell him, your last name is Koiner. There's a brand that is Koiner. People know who we are. They know what's in the community. If you do something that's crazy, it's going to get back to me because it's a representation of your last name. As a Koiner man, someone's going to come to you and say, hey, I know Connis. I know Connis Senior. He doesn't act like that. So I don't know where you got that from, but you can't be acting that way, right?
Mhm.
So the mentorship is really geared towards trying to make young men into more established men and getting them the skills, the upskilling that they need to be successful in college and, well, at this point, even in middle school, high school, college, and in subsequent life, all throughout the trajectory of their lives, being able to do the things that they should in order to be upstanding in their community. That's why
Mhm.
mentoring is so important to me.
Okay. So basically, I agree with like all your points, honestly. It's really good so that we have mentoring, we have people that can help others in the community as well. So it's really nice.
Mhm.
Additionally, so I also like to know if you were to like give yourself advice as you were like younger, maybe either elementary, middle school, high school. I want to know like what would you decide to like tell them?
Wow, that's a loaded question. There's a lot. I'll tell you one really important, greatly important piece of advice that I would give to my younger self is to know your worth and know your worth early. One of the things that I think is really interesting about me is I can get on here and answer your questions in full and complete sentences and really not feel nervous about having these discussions. I never have an issue with public speaking or with having a discussion with someone who's either older or younger about any topic. Uh, when I was in high school, though, that wasn't the case, right? I will give you an example, a quick story. It was my freshman year in high school, and my English teacher said, we were looking at sonnets and learning about poetry. And she said, I want you guys to go home and I want you to write your own poetry on whatever topic you want. So I'm like, okay, great. I went home. I knew I was a good writer. I didn't, put together my sonnet. I had it together. I handed it in. Everybody handed it in. We came in the next day. She goes, okay, great. Now you need to present it. And I'm like, my heart sank. I'm
Mhm.
like, I can't do this. I can't. What do you want me to get up in front of the class and start presenting? Oh, I just can't do it, man. I can't. And every single person in the class was forced to do it. So she asked me to come up, and I was one of the first people she asked to come up. And I have to tell you, I was holding my paper and my hand was shaking like this, and I was sweating, and every word out of my mouth was almost murmured. And somehow I got through it, and somehow I got a standing ovation. Well, I can't say standing ovation, but I got applause from the folks in my high school class. And I turned to my teacher and I said, that was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm so nervous, right?
Mhm.
And she said, that's all right, but this is your material. You wrote this, and so you should be the one that's in charge of actually presenting it. And it was at that point that I started to learn how to speak publicly. And I kind of came by it organically. I didn't have any formalized training or anything like that. I haven't joined Toastmasters. I'm still supposed to do that. I haven't done that yet. So my to do list.
Mhm.
Um, but I was kind of forced into that, right? And it made me think, wow, your worth is more than you think it is. Your skill level is higher than you think it is. You can be your own worst enemy and really take yourself out of a game when you're probably good at a skill and you don't even know it. And so for me, that's like a number one piece of advice to tell my younger self is know your worth, do it scared. Sometimes there are things that you have to do, you may not want to do. Public speaking is one of them. Get into public speaking early and
Mhm.
often. Don't wait until college. Don't wait until you learn it organically. If you have the opportunity to do it now, do it immediately. You never realize how much of an impact it makes, not only on your confidence level, but on the way people see you. people can look at you and say, wow, this guy, he has no issues with speaking publicly. He's very learned. He speaks well. And one of the things that's a common stereotype of us Black men is that, we don't do that very well. The fact that there's folks in Kappa League who we can train to do that, right? There's folks in Kappa League, brothers in Kappa League, brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi who are helping with Kappa League, who can train Kappa Leaguers on how to do that, and really, really knowing your worth. Another part of that knowing your worth is being able to negotiate salaries when you get older, being able to advocate for yourself when no one else will, being able to stand up for yourself when somebody is doing you wrong. All of that comes out of knowing your worth. And if we as Black men can teach young Black men how to value themselves and realize that they are so worth everything that they want and they need, all of their dreams and all their accomplishments that they can get, knowing that they are so worthy of that and getting them to see that they're worthy of it is
Mhm.
truly an accomplishment. And the earlier we can get that mindset, the better off we'll be throughout the trajectory of our lives. That's my number one piece of advice.
Mhm. I can like wholeheartedly support that. The confidence in itself is a really major factor because you're really not going to
Indeed.
go anywhere if you don't have enough like confidence to stand up for yourself and for help others as well.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed. Indeed, it's very important, and I realize it. Uh, Even with the role that I'm currently in right now, I had to negotiate my salary upwards. They were trying to give me a pay cut. How do you promote me to another role and then I can get less money? That doesn't make any sense. And I
Mhm.
had to push back. Right, the recruiter called me up and she told me that number, and I said I respectfully decline. I cannot. Where I am right now, doing what I am right now. I'm making more money there than I am in this role that you approached me about.
Mhm.
So, and I was told, no, I'm sorry, sir, I don't think we can get you some more money. I said, please take it back to the hiring manager. He's like, oh, you're probably going to get a no answer. I said, do me a favor and please go back to that hiring manager. Here's the number that I want. I countered and I sent her back. You know
Mhm.
what? She called me the next day with another number, much higher than I had asked, much higher than I was being offered originally. And I will tell you this: this is a statistic that I hope goes away. People of color, particularly women of color, but people of color in general, are it's very difficult for them to ask for more. We are so trained and it's so ingrained in our upbringing to you get what you to accept what's given to you. You get what you get and you don't get upset. You work hard, you keep your head down, and you get paid this much, and this is it. And you can't go any higher. And I have to tell you that not every other race or uh, ethnicity thinks the same way. And I feel like it's really, really important. It's extremely important for us to project, hey, I know my worth. You can do it in a respectful manner. I know my worth. I know I'm worth more than that. Ask for more. There's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't. Everybody else does it. Why can't we? Right? So again, know your worth. Biggest piece of advice.
Mhm. Well, I have to say thank you as well because even though that was like for your younger self, I would say that probably helped me as well in for the
Absolutely.
future. So I think I have one more question left. Recently or earlier in the conversation, you talked about how you had worked for video editing as well before you went to finance. If you decided not to do finance, would you have went for that or would you have done something differently?
What do you mean? If I hadn't gone for finance, would I have considered to pursue the video and TV editing?
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. The technological advancements that have occurred from the time that I was in school to the time right after I graduated, it was wildly, wildly different. Hofstra University was very big on having, they had a whole building dedicated to the communications genre. There was a TV station, there was a radio station, right? And at that time, you didn't have streaming services yet. You didn't have on-demand television. Well, maybe that was the beginning of on-demand television, right? And excuse me, even the technology for the televisions that we have right now didn't exist or was just at the cutting edge. It was considered cutting edge right now. The things that are up on your wall right now back then were like cutting edge technology, very expensive, very highly specialized.
Mhm.
But that said, I had a very uh, deep interest in how that technology worked and how it transcended from past to present. I had a really good eye for editing, for video editing, for the audio editing that goes with the video editing, specifically metric editing, which is where you have some form of music in the background and your edits match the beat of what's in the background. I was great at being a technical director, which is the person that when you're watching news, when you see a camera angle switch from one person to the next and from that person to video and then back to another one, specifically with sporting events, the person who is in charge of making sure that each of those is a seamless edit, that's a technical director. And that was one of the things that I was very, very good at in college. So yeah, honestly, I would have gone for that. Had I not gone into finance, I definitely would have gone for that. And I'll be honest, it's never too late. It's something that I can do as a hobby now if I wanted to. Just a matter of learning the technology itself. I don't regret not doing it though. I will say that
Mhm.
much. I'm happy with the outcome and the results of what I did decide to do with respect to finance. I don't regret it at all. Uh, but yes, I did have a love for it. So I absolutely, if I hadn't go into finance, I would have definitely gone full steam ahead into being a video editor.
Well, I have no questions left, so I'll just say thank you. Thank you for your time and letting me set up this thing. It's really nice to hear about how you've come from video editing, finance, and just becoming more confident within yourself. So thank you for being here.
Chase, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you. You have a wonderful evening.
You too.